Hello everybody. So today we are going to cover backgrounds. Now I don't have as much experience in making backgrounds as I do the other kinds of homebrew, but what I am going to do is go through some examples, show you how they work, and hopefully they'll be able to illustrate some of the things you can do with the background system. So first of all, we'll need to go to collections, create background, and you'll be given a choice to pick a template to copy or create one from scratch. So the first example we're going to look at here is the City Watch Investigator. So obviously you want your description. In the skill proficiency description, you're just putting the skill tags and what skills you're going to gain with it. Normally this will be 2 for any background. If you have any tool proficiencies, you would put them here. We'll get to that in a second. Languages, generally you just say 2 of your choice, or 1 of your choice, or specify a language here. Equipment description. Now, background specific table we're going to see in another example. You obviously have your feature name and feature description. Now the reason I want to show City Watch Investigator is because this is one of the ones with a variant. So you would pick City Watch or an Investigator. So what you offer then here is Investigator, you give a brief description, and then if it was to have a slightly different feature to what's given here with a watcher's eye, you would put that here. Example, I believe the Knight, there's one that gives a retainer, and then if you pick the other option you just get a normal follower. I believe that's one. So obviously suggested characteristics, spell list we'll get to in a second, and then obviously here in mechanics you would pick the proficiencies, tool proficiencies if they're given. Obviously, as we'll see here, if you want it to be 2 separate skills, you will go back down to here. If you want to give 2 separate skills, you put them both here. Whereas if you want to give a choice of skills, when you go into the proficiency, you just list the skills in a box and they'll be given a choice from those options. Tool proficiencies work the same way. Languages, again, work the same way. Yeah, so you would put here languages, and if you leave it blank, then they just get to choose a language. Equipment, you'll list here. Often on characters this will end up going into the free text box at the bottom. I don't believe they come out as custom items still. Background specific table, we'll get to in a second. So then characteristics, so you could add a characteristic, you would pick a type, and then you just write it down and it will get added to the appropriate table. So that's the very basic, as if you were doing from the PHP. Now we're going to get a bit interesting. So the first one we're going to look at is archaeologist. So obviously again, you list skills here, tool proficiencies here, using the item tags. Now the reason I picked archaeologist is because you had a background specific table. You had dust digger, which would be a relic that you recovered during an archaeological dig. So if we go down here to background specific table, it works exactly the same as suggested characteristics, in that you would add a record and you just add something to go into the table. The other key things I want to show are from the Eberron book. You have House Agent. Obviously again you have your tools, equipment, so you have your background specific table again, you have your background specific feature, here we go, Rakdos. So these were made for Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica. Now there's a couple of things these do that most of the backgrounds do not do, but you might want to add in for your own characters, your own homebrew backgrounds, which is a spell list. So here you put an introduction, you give them a bit of an expanded description, you give them descriptions of their contacts, and then here you have additional spell list. So what you do is you give the spell list a name and you just add in the spells. A character who has access to this will not automatically know those spells. Unless, say, they're a cleric who can prepare spells, what they are. But what I mean is, it's not like certain subclasses where you automatically gain access to those spells. You don't need to use any of your, you can prepare X a day, or you can know so many spells. How this works is these are added to the spell list. So if it's already part of their class's spell list, it has no effect. But if, say, Selesnya is a classic example, has a lot of cleric and druid spells. If you're playing a warlock or a sorcerer, you suddenly have access to healing magic. So that's something you can add here. The other thing is contacts, which was another part of the Ravnica backgrounds. Again, it's another table. It works exactly the same as the background table or suggested characteristics. You just add here a table of different kinds of contacts they could have from the organisation. So this background with contacts is very much for when you want to tie it to an organisation or a group. Background specific table might be something a bit more quirky, a bit more nuanced, like with the archaeologist and an item you recovered in a dig. Obviously, celestial characteristics is an important part of the background. It's your personality, traits, ideals, bonds, flaws. The spell list is purely for if you want your background to potentially give some extra spells for all classes to give a bit more of a thematic casting to them. And then, of course, we have the spell proficiencies, tool proficiencies, language and equipment. So yeah, there isn't really a lot to it. It's mainly learning where everything is placed. Again, this isn't a long video, but I'm hoping just in quickly going through the different areas and making sure you're aware of them, it will be helpful. Obviously, I'll put some documentation in the description down below, as well as also saying, as always, in the comments, if there's UA or a question you have, if maybe this didn't answer a question you have about backgrounds, free to put them in the comments, and I and some of the community will be able to answer and provide you with some help. Okay, so with that, hopefully you all know how to make some backgrounds, and we'll be able to see some cool things in the future from you all. So, see you all next time.